best. Okay, first of all, too, we're not paid. Are you paid to be here?
Not paid, no.
We're not paid to be here. We don't represent any fertilizer manufacturers or any big, farm or anything like that. We were asked here, and like I said, private practice dentist. I'm a member of the Redwood Empire Dental Society, and this is, if you're a dentist, the opportunity for your community to receive water fluoridation is like, yay. You get really excited because you understand the benefits. It's well studied. There's 50 years of data, and when let me see your name. You're Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. A lot of stuff you say, I agree with. I'll talk to you about that. There's over 50 years of data, and it's the best data. When you look at scientific evidence, there's a pyramid of evidence from observations like, hey, I noticed when we do this, we see that. That's how the benefits of fluoride started. It was with fluorosis. Fluorosis is how we figured out that fluoride is actually helpful. And we see areas where the water had natural fluoride. Fluoride's an element. How many people had chemistry? You look at the periodic table, it's the big F. That's what fluoride is. And when it occurs naturally in water, which it does actually in the wells around here, it's just not high enough to help your teeth. They saw areas that had way high levels of fluoride that were not recommended. Nobody here is recommending toxic levels of fluoride in the water. But when you had high levels of fluoride, you do get these little brown spots, and they're ugly. And nobody wants ugly brown spots. I'm a dentist, and people be up in arms if we put ugly brown spots on your tooth. But what they found was those people who had this in Colorado, and they studied this in the 1940s, they said, hey, these people, these spots, they also don't have a lot of cavities like the rest of the people normally do. So they said, well, what is this? And they looked at it and said, hey, the water in this area has a lot of fluoride, and it's making these deposits that make your teeth ugly, but it also makes your teeth super hard and not getting cavities. So they went back and they did the studies, and they did a lot of studies, not just a few, but we're talking so many studies that they can fill volumes if you look at it. It's one of the most studied items in public health, and we have great confidence. And you brought up a point, I want to address that in a minute. But what they found was if you take fluoride and you get it in this little sweet spot, not too little, not too much, your teeth have a significant reduction in caries. It used to be really high before there was fluoride toothpaste, but now with the way things are, modern fluoride toothpaste, when you add fluoride to the water, you're going to see anywhere between a 20 to 40% reduction in caries rate, or fewer cavities. And that still holds today. There's studies that are still coming out that validate that. Rebecca brought up a good point about us saying that there's no randomized controlled studies. You should know that. It's not ethical to do a randomized controlled study on human beings, knowing that you're depriving somebody of something that is beneficial. So you have to do cohort studies. If you study, there's a pyramid of evidence, and fluoride's at the meta-analysis level. You do systems analysis of other studies and synthesizes and do the math, and you understand biostatistics. Fluoride is like awesome. It's just so helpful, and we've got great research, and for 50 years we've been doing this now. And we're open to, if you have a scientific mind, you're open to other studies. If people make a claim, we welcome studies to say, oh, if you make a claim, let's see. I'm open to the evidence to see that if what you're claiming is true, and that's the concept of an open mind. But so far, fluoride's been safe. The majority of the United States has been fluoridated, most of the states. The reason why we're here, there's a bill that was called California, it was AB 73 and Senate Bill 96. It was called the California Fluoridation Act of 1995. It's saying that as soon as systems with 10,000 hookups have funds available, they should fluoridate their water. And so what's happening is the state goes around. We just did San Diego used to be the largest city in the United States that wasn't fluoridated. They just recently added fluoride. And also San Jose was the next largest city in the state of California. They just recently moved forward in their fluoridating. So we're just looking around, going from community to community to try to bring this great public health benefit. C.Ever Cooper was a great Surgeon General, said water fluoridation, community fluoridation was one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. It's just, we're getting our turn to come do it now. We have a very active public health officer, Dr. Lynn Silver-Chapin, who picked up the baton and said, hey, why aren't you guys doing this? This is great. And so, our kids really need this. It's a real benefit. So that's why we're here. That's what we're here talking about. Thank you for coming out too, by the way. A question in the back.
Yes, Doctor. Why is it that a number of European countries which used to do fluoridation of water have now stopped doing it?
Sure.
Sorry.
Did you hear that?
Do you want to come up to the microphone so we can
So I can paraphrase it if you
Yeah.
want. He said, by the way, so in Europe, he says that you're saying that in Europe, some of the countries that used to use fluoride have it. That's a good question. What they do in Europe is different. It's all about how, it's not about that fluoride is not effective. Europe understands fluoride is effective. It's how you deliver it and what's the cheapest way to deliver it. In Europe, like in Swiss, they have the different can concept, different water supplies of varying size. It's easier. Europe doesn't deliver their fluoride through the water. They do it through the salt like we do iodine. In the United States, there's a lot of developmental problems with the lack of iodine. Is that correct, Dr.? Is that true that lack of iodine can lead to brain dysfunction, to improper development of neurologic development? So in the United States, we've had iodized salt for years. Europe looked at this. Hold on, please. Europe looked at this and they said it's actually easier for us to put it in the salt than they do in some of the milk products as well. And they deliver it that way. So some places they do fluoridate, some places the water already has a fluoride. In other places, it's cheaper and more effective for Europe to deliver it through salt. And they also have public health systems that are far in excess of what we
So
have.
we realize the question and answer period's coming later, but it's really
Okay.
important for the public to know that iodine is an essential nutrient. Fluoride is a non-essential nutrient. I'm just saying.
It used to be, you're right.
Thank you.
I'm not claiming that fluoride is essential. I'm saying it used to be, but it's not. You can live without fluoride. We're just saying it is beneficial.
I'm sorry, guys. If we can hold our questions to the part when you guys can come up.
Sweet.
If you need to write it down, I have a pen and I have some note paper so you can write it down. Is that a question? Is it a question for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a suggestion, turn the treble up and the bass down.
Can you come and help me? Where is?
I don't know.
Lauren is doing the best she can.
Yeah.
And she's doing a good job.
And it's not bad, Is this better? Testing. Is this better? Much better? Okay, good. Okay. So we have a few more turns here, there, and then we'll open it up for you guys to come up.
Okay, Robert, you're on.
He's drinking fluoride.
Well, my first point is I'm actually quite surprised that we even have this topic to discuss. I mean, we live in a free country. We value liberty and choice. And the fact that someone is suggesting mass medication without our consent it blows my mind. So my first point is that this really violates our civil liberties. If you want to have fluoride, you should. You should be able to go and purchase it. You can get it in your water if you want. You can get your salt shaker if you want, and that's great. I'm all for that. In fact, there's some controversy around it, but I think most people agree that there's some benefit to topical application. But if you want it in your water, you can have it, but I don't choose that. And so I don't think we should be allowing this type of thing to happen where people don't have choice. Particularly, we talk about the most underserved is the children here, this issue of children, and they have very little opportunity to make any choice about this, and certainly about the quantity. That's one of my main issues around it. Whether we decide it's the best thing possible, if you don't want it, you shouldn't have it. Not that long ago in high school, I read a book called Brave New World by Alexis Huxley, and the people decided that it was better off. The government decided that people were a little too rambunctious, so they decided to inoculate the people with this drug called Soma to calm them all down. And I just think it's dangerous precedent, it's slippery slope as we start deciding to put non-essential things in our water. We already have things that need to be in there, like chlorine, to kill the coliform things and keep their water fresh and clean, but we have a right to keep it clean. So that's one point. You have the right to clean water, untainted, unadulterated water. Second point is that this fluoride that they're talking about, putting in our water, is a waste product of the aluminum industry and the phosphate industry. It is very, very different than the naturally occurring fluoride, which is calcium fluoride, which does naturally occur. Sodium fluoride is a very different beast. It is a toxic chemical. And so where it comes from is these ponds that they have, because they used to have this stuff coming out as a waste product that was killing cattle in the area. So they spray this with a mist which cools it and condenses it, and they keep it in these ponds, and they don't have anywhere to get rid of it. So the best way to get rid of it is to sell it to the American people and put it in our water supply. But it's a toxic waste that we quite frankly should reject. The other matter with respect to this toxic product is that, let's not be confused. This is a toxin and it's difficult to control. We have 41% of teenagers with fluorosis in the United States. That would suggest that it's not being regulated very well. And there's a big debate. I've got some studies here. CDC is talking about lowering the amount. So there's uncertainty. Should be 7 parts per minute, 4 parts per minute, 14 parts per million in terms of what's the appropriate amount of dose. And how are you going to control it with the athlete who's drinking extra water? The individuals had a fluoride treatment from their dentists, or they're also having fluoride pills. So how are you going to control those doses? It is you cannot just go buy these tablets. They are prescription items because they're a controlled substance. So it is a danger there. Also, the American Dental Association in 2006 came out with a warning with children. It is not good for infants. Now, we got a little problem. The doses that they are suggesting in our water are about 100 times higher than what they should allow infants to have. So you got a little bit of a problem here in controlling that exposure to your children. We can go on with the health risks, but one of the biggest challenges is to the brain. We're finding now, and study done at Harvard, and it was interesting, they basically said here, this was in 2012, the study, trying to find out how safe it really is. What do we really know? We really don't know very much is what they're saying here. And they're saying that there is an association with higher fluoride levels in the water and mental challenges, lower IQ. Now, in an age where we're seeing an explosion of autistic spectrum disorders, and we're not sure where they're coming from, there's lots of charges about where this is happening, but I think everybody agrees that there's more autistic challenges out there. Do we really want to contaminate our water when we don't even know how dangerous this substance really is? Fluoride, calcium fluoride, naturally occurring fluoride is not the same as this toxic waste sodium fluoride, so please do not be confused. So we have those issues around excessive with respect to thyroid function. Too much builds up affects, as Dr. Peter indicated, the adults, seniors who are at risk for toxicity, those with colon cancer, with kidney and liver challenges are also going to have some difficulties with this aspect. And finally, my last point, we got from the county an estimate of $8.5 million to get this process started. Okay? I think I said a minute.
No, okay, I thought it was a minute.
Okay, and $1 million a year to maintain it. I think that would pay for a lot of fluoride treatments in the underserved, which would be much more effective if we wanted to do the sealants than to contaminate